Honestly, based.
Isaac Hale, best person in this whole story yet.
Yes.
Next to Mahogany Top.
Yes.
You're listening to Getting Fae'd. We,
Meike,
Lea,
and Lukas are reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the very first time. Today we are discussing chapters 3 and 4. Get Fae'd with us!
Woo!
Well. Chapters 3 and 4. We have continued reading. How do you guys feel?
I want to go on reading. Now I have the urge.
I'm so happy we finally talk about it. I started reading chapter 3 right after we finished recording the first episode.
But now we can talk about it. And now, I gotta say, when we finished the last episode, I was like, yeah, I'm interested to see how it's going on. And now I'm like, fuck, I want to go on.
So we ended the last chapter with Feyre possessing a wolf skin and a deer hide. And she wants to sell it. So in chapter 3, she heads to the market of the village.
Yeah.
And obviously her lovely sisters, Nesta and Elaine, tag along because they want a piece of the cake. They want to make sure they can get their hands on any money she might get for it.
They suck so bad.
I hate them. But
Yeah.
I have to say, this is kind of maybe the start of the Nesta redemption arc because she chopped the wood.
Yeah, I was so proud of her. I was like, oh damn, I am impressed.
I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
me
didn't
too.
see that coming. I thought Nesta would be a dick for at least this whole book.
Yeah, I gotta say,
I feel like she's moving into the right direction.
yeah, I found some harsh words
Slowly.
for her last time. And she grew on me, kind of, I gotta
Yeah, it's
say.
like it's a Nesta redemption chapter already.
But I want to say, one tiny little prediction we had was right. I said we will see everyday life and then the consequences of her hunting. And that is what happened.
That is what
because I know how stories work.
Yeah.
Good job.
I have to say we will get into that more, but Lea, your predictions last episode, some of them were pretty on point.
That's how I am.
Pretty on point. I think it's funny that Nesta kind of plays a pretty big part in this chapter.
Yeah.
And Elaine is just there.
That's
Yeah.
true. I really do not have any furthermore feelings
Yeah, no,
towards
in my
Elaine.
notes I wrote down like Nesta and my thoughts on her, and then I did a whole bullet point for Elaine, and I was like, I have no thoughts on her. No,
But
nothing.
that's kind of her character. She's
Yeah.
just there.
She's very plain.
No thoughts, head empty. Elaine.
Yeah. On the way there, they start smelling some nice, fancy spices, and it smells delicious. And
Elaine moaned.
yeah, Elaine lets
What?
out a low moan.
I
It is
didn't
described
even-
in the book, and I was like, same. That's that's me whenever I smell good food when I'm hungry. I'm like,
Okay, Lukas. Getting the ASMR experience here, exclusively on Getting Fae'd.
yeah. So it makes sense since they like come from money and were accustomed to eating those nice spices, and maybe that's just a piece of her past that she longs for.
And I
Yes.
get it. The market smells really nice most of the time.
And also, she describes how they can't even afford salt, and I'm like, what? That food must be so bland.
Yeah.
I mean, I love eating food, and that sounds so sad.
Poverty makes me sad.
Yes, I'm privileged.
Yeah.
Those
But-
poor people.
But if they're so sad, they can just cry on their food to make it salty.
Okay.
We should continue.
We continue. So,
Christ.
on the-
There's one thing I want to add. In this chapter, Sarah J. Maas uses clicked her or their tongue 3 times.
Oh, you're right.
And I was so annoyed by that.
What do you think that means?
Are they like,
But I think it's more like a, like a disrespectful,
with a
like
voice behind it.
like more like a t instead of
Yeah.
a click,
yeah, probably.
because a click is more like a, and that's not how you react to something that annoys you.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a Sarah
That was
J.
weird.
Maas thing to use words over and over again. In her other book, I think she uses snarled a lot. And I always was like, what do you mean? Your character snarls. Okay. But I feel like an editor should catch this, maybe. It's not. Maybe it's just Nesta's character traits. Like she clicks her tongue. That's okay, but to use it 3 times in one chapter, that's a bit excessive.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Sarah, cut it down a bit.
Maybe it's foreshadowing that Nesta is some sort of magical tongue being.
Or she's just a cricket.
So Feyre is Fae blood and Nesta has cricket blood.
That mother of theirs.
Their mom was really busy.
What an adventurous woman.
On their way to the market, they run into some really nice people, the Jehovah's Witness, the children of the blessed. Yeah. What are your thoughts on these lovely, nice people?
I immediately had that association of these people that approach you in the streets, like Jehovah's Witnesses or such religious people, and not like people that want to save children because they don't seem to have a noble background and are just like, be nice to the fairy overlords. No, fae overlords, not fairy. We learn that there's a difference between fae and high fae and fairies.
They're described as fairy-loving whores, which I thought was funny.
But that's also quite some harsh words, I felt like. I was surprised.
Everybody seems to hate them.
Yeah, like truly hate them.
Yeah.
Like in the real world, when you're approached by people like that, they annoy us a bit and then we move on with our lives, but there's some real spite there.
Yeah,
they do not like them.
Nesta is very anti-them and very anti-fae, which surprised me because I kind of felt like Nesta just didn't care about anything else besides her, and for her to like wear an iron bracelet and to like actually fear and hate fairies, maybe she has a reason, we don't know yet.
Yeah, but I also feel like everybody hates fairies except for these people,
and we find out why later. So
but also that was kind of the moment I was like, do I like Nesta now? Does she grow on me? Because
she just doesn't take any bullshit. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, she's just awesome. I felt like Goth Queen, and she turned like from a bitch to a bad bitch, affectionately.
Yeah, she's kind of fun.
Yeah. These children of the blessed are described with like long and uncut hair. And in my mind, I still associate fairies with like elves from high fantasy that I know. And obviously associate them with long hair. So I was like, maybe do they want to look like them to be more attractive to them or something like that?
Yeah, I had the same thought.
I mean, we don't know what like the human-looking Fae Lords look like, so they might have long hair.
But we also learned that they are wearing silver bracelet to attract the fairies instead of all
silver
the other
bells, which I find kind of funny. Ding-a-ling,
like
chime, chime, chime. Come here, little fairy, come here.
Is it just like the metal that attracts the fairies, or is it sound?
I don't know.
Do they run through the woods at night with these metal bells and they're like, come get me, fae?
I mean, like wind chimes are supposed to like attract good things, and in some stories fairies are good things.
But
so
I also think it might be the metal, because there's the dichotomy of the iron and the silver, and I feel like it seemed quite important to me.
Yeah, so they essentially worship the high fae as gods and think they have brought good things to the people, and that all the people should just love them. And what do you guys think? Are they maybe right? I mean, the fairies and fae are presented to us through the lens of this mortal culture as just plain monsters that destroy everything. And what do you think is the truth?
I feel like, as so often, there's some grey room, some shading going on. I don't think they're some sort of holy saviors that do everything right, but I also don't think there are these cruel monsters that eat people all the time. Maybe some eat people, but yeah.
But they are pretty crazy from what we learn. Isn't it described that a high fae or maybe a high lord can turn someone's bones to dust from 100 feet away?
Also, they say.
I wanted to say, I felt like it was more of a saying to express how powerful they are, and less of a that's what they actually can do. It didn't seem to me like the people that spoke about that actually met high fae, but just fairies.
I mean, the children of the blessed, as they call themselves, they haven't really met them either. The one main acolyte mentions that her cousin went to the wall and then apparently got married to a high fae, but they all just assume that because she didn't come back. And Nesta's like, yeah, your cousin was eaten, idiot.
I thought she was so funny in that moment. She was like, oh, she went off to the forest and now she's probably married to a high fairy lord and lives a long and happy life. She was probably eaten. I thought it was so funny.
What I got from that was that apparently some villages are giving people as offerings. Mm-hmm. That's how I understood it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So
they actually mention offering.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's impressive. I don't know. That's all concerning, maybe.
But they seem to believe that high fairies take them in and live a life.
Yeah,
with
but
them.
Maybe that's not true. We don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I feel like not. Or maybe,
we'll see.
But I'm wondering if we will ever see one of these offerings again.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Maybe Feyre will go into the fairyland at some point. Having read chapter 4, maybe. And maybe she'll meet some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think about this distinction? We learned that high fae are more like humans, and then there are the fairies that, I don't know, are almost described lizard-like or more like animals, and these animal beings like the wolf could be a fairy, but then there are also high fae who are like these sexy, lordly being, probably, I don't know.
Yeah, and I got the feeling that the high fae can control the fairies, like they are their pets, but sometimes they cannot and they just run wild, and that is the reason they go beyond the wall and like kill mortals, because that if high fae would do that on purpose, they would be breaking the treaty.
So I have a prediction about that.
Okay.
Here we go. So I think there might be a conflict brewing in Prythian. So later they speculate, do they maybe
not have them under control?
Yeah, do they not have them under control, or are these attacks planned? And I think that some courts or some factions want to attack and others want to keep their promise, and that might be part of the greater story that we will experience.
I also wondered how the relationship between fairies and high fae is, because I think Feyre describes fairies as like varied as much as any other species of animal. And I thought it interesting, like animal. She said animal, not like people. So fairies are more like animals and high fae are like actual rulers. So maybe fairies and high fae even have some conflict themselves.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
Do fairies even have like a human-like consciousness?
The description of the fairies also kind of reminded me of Avalon, the like mystic isle of, I guess, fairies in like
British
English folklore. Yeah. I mean, I've seen Merlin, the BBC series, and the people from Avalon look kind of like Feyre describes fairies here. So that actually popped into my head, and I was wondering, maybe she's inspired by Avalon, because it's also like an isle, and she talks about like a sunken place somewhere, doesn't she, where fairies
I don't
come
remember,
from?
maybe. But I want to get into that now, that maybe we're talking about the distinctions, but there is also spoken of the High Lords, which might not be the same as the High Elves, but I didn't really get that.
Yeah, she says even worse.
Yeah.
High Lord. And I was like, oh, is
So they're
High
like
Lord
a
even
step above
Yeah.
a high fae, I guess.
So maybe there are the fairies that are like the more animalistic beings, and then there are the High Fae that are just like humans in kind of way, and then maybe there are the High Lords that rule the High Fairies. They might just be the rulers.
But do they have special abilities?
Maybe they have magic of some kind.
But maybe they don't have magic because or special magic because they're High Lords, but they become High Lords because they're specially gifted or something, because they're powerful and can become rulers.
So we also learn about the treaty.
Yes.
Which surprised me, kind of, because it's so simple.
Yeah. So we learn that the humans have been enslaved by the Fae, and then they rebelled, and there was a brutal war.
Yeah, and that's exactly the prediction you had, Lea, last time.
Yeah, well, it was not that hard of a prediction.
No, but I was very proud of you when I read
Thanks.
that. I thought, Lea got it right.
Yeah, I was also like, I did well.
Good
but
job,
thanks.
you get a cookie.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought it was quite impressive how the treaty was described. She writes, "It took 6 mortal queens crafting the treaty for the slaughter to cease on both sides and for the wall to be constructed." So these 6 mortal queens, that's something obscure and interesting.
Is this whole mortal land a matriarchy?
Oh,
Kind of sounds like it.
maybe, yeah.
That would be interesting.
But also, I mean, I didn't count it, but I think there might be 7 courts. Is that right?
Yes.
So maybe there is one mortal queen missing that could become...
But Lea, the courts are in Prithian, not in the Mortal Lands.
Yeah, but maybe the 6 mortal queens, I don't know, married some 6 Fae
Oh, to
people.
like seal peace
Yeah,
or something?
So I thought that number was interesting. And
So maybe Feyre is the 7th queen.
You're catching my drift.
Nice. Maybe these queens also like ascended to Feylord status somehow.
Nice. So that's a thing. I mean, Lord is also quite a gendered word. So I obviously thought of male Fey Lords, but maybe it's like in Avatar where the Fire Lord can also be a woman, and that could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of lore to unpack here and possible lore that we are just making up. But either way, I feel like it's an interesting world and some interesting world building going on.
Yeah.
I want to find out more about these fairies.
Yeah.
I want to find out more about the wall.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
dividing.
The wall. Like, what is this wall? We have some information dropped. Like, on the one hand, they say it has been constructed. They are like people patrolling it. But then at one point, the book says it's invisible.
Really? I might not have
Yeah, I think
catched
she
that.
calls it the invisible wall. And then a sentence later, basically, she's like, it's been constructed. And I was like, well, is it invisible? Is it constructed? What is it? Is it magic? Is it like,
I mean, it can be
a curtain or
constructed
something?
and invisible.
oh yeah, maybe it's an actual wall like made from stone, but it's invisible and you just run against it.
People are just running against it.
So I found the quote in the book. It says, Feyre learns that maybe the fairy are going to attack. And she says, if it were true, I'd find a way to get my family off our miserable damn territory and head south. Head far from the invisible wall that bisected our world before they could cross it.
Maybe it's like with Berlin and East and West Germany. So there was the Iron Curtain, and it was more like a very harshly controlled border. And then in Berlin, there was an actual wall.
Maybe.
So maybe there is like this border which apparently stretches upon other continents, maybe. And then there's a part where they constructed a wall.
Like in the beginning, maybe.
In the beginning,
Yeah.
there was a wall.
It's fun how a wall can be such a mystery.
Yeah, you're right.
And like we're speculating about a wall.
Yeah, that's true. The immortal border.
Sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are we getting to my favorite part of this chapter?
Your favorite part, okay.
Meike knows what I'm talking about.
I catch your drift.
Do you know what I'm
So-
talking about, Lukas?
I think so.
I was immediately in love.
Feyre and her sisters split up because Feyre wants to do this alone, to find someone to sell the wolfskin to. And she settles on an unknown mercenary. Lea, do you want to describe this unknown mercenary?
Well, give me a minute. So she's described as a massive, muscular, scarred woman, and she has cool weapons. And I thought she was so cool, and I was immediately in love, and I shipped them so hard. And and the best thing was that she is described, or that her hair is described as thick dark hair shorn to her chin. So she has the bisexual bob.
Yeah, and
Just
she's also described as a mountain of a woman. So if Feyre happens to meet her again, maybe that's what going under the mountain means.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, but again, Feyre describes her with such words of admiration and beauty, which she also does for the wolf. And I mean, it's obviously supposed to shine a light on her artsy side, but it also makes me think of that woman as incredibly attractive.
There's this one moment when the mercenary like lifts her trousers up to show her a scar, and she's like, yeah, and Feyre's like, that's a pretty beautiful scar. It's like very tangly labyrinth-like lines on her leg.
I guess she also admires her because she's more like her than her sisters or her father are.
Yeah, because she's
like a woman going out into the woods, fighting, hunting, and like being so open and confident and cool about it.
Yeah, and she's strong and can fend for herself.
Yeah. I think Feyre wants to be her. She's having the bisexual struggle.
Yes.
Do I want to be her or do I want to love her?
Why not have both?
I mean, this woman has especially one thing that Feyre doesn't, and that's freedom. Like, Feyre made this promise to her mom that she will stay by her family and always defend them, and she doesn't really want to do that because, well, her family sucks. And I think it's like an appealing idea to just wander around the world with no real responsibilities.
Yeah, you're right. But also, the mercenary has something else that Feyre doesn't have, and that's money. Because
a lot of it.
Yeah, she's generous too. Yeah, and I just love her. I want to meet her again.
Yes, she's generous, but Feyre was really confused about the amount of money she is ready to offer for the wolfskin. So that made me kind of think that maybe the mercenary immediately knows that it's a fairy skin. And like that's why she wants to pay more.
I didn't think of that.
I wasn't even suspicious. I was just blinded.
Just in love.
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess if she knew it was a fairy skin and wanted to like cheat her out of her money, she would have just set a normal wolf skin price.
But also maybe she didn't want to scare her and she was like, okay, damn, this woman just killed a fairy. I'll buy it, but it's not my problem.
Yeah. She says someone once did the same for me and mine, and now she's being generous in return. And I wonder if maybe we'll find out later more about that.
That would be cool.
It's such a specific thing to say without it ever coming up again, maybe. I mean, maybe it's just backstory and we don't meet her again, or maybe she's becoming a bigger character in the future. And we learn more about her and who did a good thing for her.
Yeah, or maybe it just is supposed to teach us to
that there's
give back.
good in the world.
Yeah, to give back.
Or maybe we will get a spin-off book.
Oh, yes, please. I need that
Does
in
she
my
have
life.
a name?
Mercenary woman.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think she
Do you
has
want to
a name.
give her a name?
What was the name you gave me in that impro game? Where I played
it was
the woodchopper woman?
Yeah, it was Mahogany Tooth.
Yeah. We should name her Mahogany Tooth.
Yes, I love that
Yeah.
because I feel like it fits.
Yeah.
Mahogany Tooth. I
So-
love her.
And with Mahogany, I feel like we also have some sort of world building because she's like not from there. She is described to have a very tan face that you wouldn't really get in this winterish England ripoff. And she also has like a foreign accent that Feyre has never heard before. So that just kind of makes the world seem bigger. Like maybe she's from that big continent to the east that we saw on the map. That just made for good world building. Like it's vague and just makes us think that there's more to this world.
So, but we learn that she has fought with fairies and she's describing a Martax. Martax?
I don't know.
I read it as Martax.
Martax. Sounds dangerous.
Sounds like something with teeth.
Yeah.
It's
And
probably
poison,
is.
apparently.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Did she say she fought a Matrax?
No, she didn't.
I think she fought another kind of fairy, because Feyre's like, have we ever seen any other kind of fairy?
Oh,
and
yeah.
she goes like, well, you wouldn't want to hear about it or something like that. And then she shows her
You're
the
right.
scar.
So I don't think she fought a Martax, but she describes the Martax as the most vicious type of fairies. The quote is, "Body big as a bear's, head something like a lion's, and 3 rows of teeth sharper than a shark's, and meaner than all 3 put together." Does not sound pleasant.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to meet it. What I found interesting is that she mentions attacks near the border.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, like at that point, I was wondering if maybe in the next hunting round for Feyre, she might meet one of those monsters. I mean, she probably won't, because she's leaving town. But more about that later. But yeah, I wondered maybe why has Feyre never met anything in the forest?
Yeah.
They describe it as so dangerous. Like her father is like, oh no, it's so dangerous. But she's never met a fairy. That was kind of...
So this old man that employs Mahogany describes how these attacks have become more frequent in the last 50 years, which, yes, that's somewhat recent, but not that recent for Feyre, who might have met some fairies.
And also, I'm not sure, but I think in the first chapter she says that she's like currently going into the forest further than she's ever been before.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So maybe that's why she's never met those creatures.
It kind of made me wonder if maybe those markings were legit and she's maybe protected in a way that maybe a fairy won't come near her. But we found out. No.
We will see
the
about
markings?
that.
You mean the markings on the threshold of her cabin?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good theory. We will see what happens in chapter 4.
But yeah, the mercenary is, Mahogany Tooth is pretty awesome.
Yes.
But I was wondering, like, what is she doing in that town? Because I felt like it's described that really everybody is incredibly poor.
You're
and
right.
No one could afford to hire a mercenary.
Maybe she doesn't know that. Maybe she's just traveling through towns and it's like...
She got incredibly lucky to just sit there in a very poor village and just accidentally buy some fairy wolf skin. Maybe she's like some kind of magical being that just knew bad things would come to Feyre and she had to be there to give her money. And at first I was like, oh, well, what is money gonna do? But, you know, in the next chapter, she's gonna need that money, not for herself, but for her family. But yeah, there was a real blessing.
It was a blessing. I don't think she's a magical being. I think she was sent there by the plot convenience.
I was just thinking, maybe she's just...
We might be putting too much into her.
Maybe she's just a literary device to show Feyre there are other people and kind people in this world.
And she's also spilling some new information about fairies.
Yeah.
She's like doing something in the plot, giving exposition, and all that, while apparently being very attractive to Lea.
Thanks for your service.
Mahogany. We will always remember you. Come visit me.
Yeah, so their conversation kind of goes back and forth, but Feyre's sister do not seem so fond of her, because they watch this whole conversation, because, as we established earlier, they fucking suck. And they, instead of just going away and minding their own fucking business, they like try to hide somewhere.
Did they just stand there?
I think they just stood there and were like,
in my mind,
you can see us.
In my mind, they were like, I don't know, a few feet away, and we're like, this is a dangerous woman. Give us the money. Okay, we have the money. Let's go.
Yeah, they don't like her. They say to Feyre that she shouldn't talk to such people.
It just seems like Nesta doesn't like anyone.
No. But
except for Thomas.
Apparently, Nesta and Elaine had one bad experience with a mercenary.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They mentioned they were robbed by one in the past.
Yeah, do you think that might come up again?
I don't know. It might just be, I don't know.
It felt like a throwaway line in some ways, but on the other hand, it was like, but it's kind of also important now that we established this very kind mercenary, and yeah, we were robbed by a different one once. So I was like, what do I do with this information?
How did Feyre not notice? They're so poor. How did she not notice someone stole money from her sisters?
I guess, like, they say they just didn't tell her because they didn't want to bother her or something. But it seems strange because I feel like Feyre manages the whole finances of this household. And
She manages everything.
probably would have noticed if something went missing.
Yeah. But maybe she's like, okay, I'm giving them their allowance, and what they do with it, it's their business, and if they lose it, well, tough luck.
That could be the case. What I like about this chapter is that it gives us just some more information, and it elaborates on what we've learned before, but it also kind of subtly hints at a conflict coming, because Mahogany Tufts tells us about all those fairies attacking and them getting more recent, and that kind of sounds like a big thing is coming, and we're just at the beginning of something new. Like maybe there's a war coming, or things are changing. Maybe the wall is breaking apart. I don't know.
Yeah.
Things are changing. It feels like that.
Which brings me back to my prediction about the inner conflict.
I liked the chapter. It had a new exciting character and taught us something about the world, and we all had fun.
Well, it's not over yet.
And it's not over yet.
Yes.
Enter Isaac.
Don't.
And please, I just want to read Feyre's description of him.
Go off.
Because I think I laughed out loud reading it. Relatively handsome, soft-spoken and reserved, but with a sort of darkness running beneath it all that had drawn us to each other. That shared understanding of how wretched our lives were and would always be. Okay, girl.
I mean, she describes how they are together in their misery, and I was just like, bro, what do you have to be miserable about? You're described as the eldest son of the only well-off farmer in our village, so he apparently has some sort of money. Where is your misery, man?
Well, I kind of felt like Isaac just maybe is a deeper character than we think right now. Because she also mentions how he like talks about all the expectation his father puts on him.
I mean,
and
yes.
stuff like that.
I mean, yes, it can. I mean, I don't want to diminish these experiences. I feel like that can be very hard on oneself. But I feel like in this setting where people are like begging and hunting for food.
Yeah, it's kind of like grow up, bro.
Yeah, it's like, oh, poor man, your father
boy.
wants you to take over the business. There.
Yeah. But I also wondered, like, why is Feyre drawn to darkness? Because she seems to be such a light person at heart, I think. Because she's so
fairy
into
queen.
art and like the nice things in life. And she's forced into this hard labor and into killing. And I just wondered, maybe she would go for like a soft-hearted nice boy. But maybe there are no in town. So.
Do you really think she is light at heart? I feel
Kind
like,
of.
I feel like she wants to be on the light side of things, but she can't escape the dark. And I feel that's not her fault in the case of she's at fault for her hard life. But I feel like she's clinging on to this, oh, I'm brooding.
Yeah,
and
you're
dark.
right.
I think that's like the overarching theme there. She's drawn to darkness.
She's also very into this whole fairy thing.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
I mean, when Mahogany shows her scar, she's like, oh, that's beautiful. And that could just mean, oh, she thinks like Mahogany with her scars and stuff is beautiful. But she also could think like, oh, like this like image from like a wound from a battle and this poison running through your veins is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like death is beautiful.
I mean,
She's pretty emo. I take it back. She's not light at heart.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes she wants to be lighthearted, but she just can't in this world. Like she
I agree.
is drawn to Isaac, but she doesn't love him.
Do you think Isaac is into her more than she's into him?
Yes.
Maybe. We don't really learn that much about Isaac, but it's described that he always talks a lot when they're together and she doesn't, and that just kind of seems like...
I also liked how she explained that she pulled him into a barn, because in the last chapter I was worried that Isaac was like forcing her, but no,
it seems
apparently
consensual, like
either
just
she
friends
did.
with benefits.
No, they seem. But yeah, I think he's more into her. He
Yes.
might be actually interested in her, and like she talks about how he wanted to get her like a bracelet, I think,
Yeah, one of
Yeah,
those
an
iron
iron bracelet.
bracelets to
and
protect
she
her.
didn't want it because she would feel like being bought, like being paid for sex. But maybe he actually just wanted to give her a gift, and maybe he believes that iron could protect her, and he just wanted her to be safe.
But they couldn't really be together since he's like promised to marry another woman.
Yeah, that's the thing. I still am very convinced that he likes her more than she likes him. But he is marrying someone else, and it didn't feel
Not by love, but it's like an arranged marriage thing.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Well,
what did you think?
I think he chose, or at least maybe not, I love this woman more, but I felt like it was some sort of his choice. But maybe I'm wrong.
Would he still have this relationship with Feyre if he was like in an actual loving relationship with someone else?
Yeah, that's the thing. You can still choose someone else even though it's not a more loving relationship. And what I thought was quite interesting was that she describes how she hasn't asked him yet to meet her after he's married, but that means she has thought about it. And I thought that was very interesting and quite unusual for a female character, or the point of view of a female character, as far as I have read.
I think the way she talks about Isaac, even though she mentions not having feelings for him and just sleeping with him because she wants to, is very delicate in a way. Like, she seems to actually like care about this kind of situationship, even though there's no love. She doesn't like talk disrespectfully about him or something.
Yeah.
She's just, he's there and we make love with each other because we're desperate, and I kind of cherish that.
It's still hers.
Yeah, it kind of felt intimate, if not loving. It just felt, I don't know, kind of nice even.
It's also no secret to her sisters that she's meeting this Isaac guy. Like, they ask if they take precautions, and we learn that in this world there's like a anti-baby pill for men.
Yeah, I
which
wrote
is
that
nice.
down too. It's
Yeah, he takes it because Feyre can't afford it, and I wrote on king.
Yes, honestly, based.
Isaac Hale, best person in this whole story yet.
Yes.
Next to Mahogany Top.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun that in every fantasy story there's like an equivalent for the pill. Just so no one has to bother with pregnancies.
Because the authors want to write like sexy romance, but don't want children in their plots.
Yeah.
And their relationship also started in a cute way, because Isaac had pretty eggs. That's how it's described.
I remember.
Like, one day he's like walking in town and he has a basket of eggs, and Feyre's like, "Oh, they're pretty. I would talk to you."
Such a cute story, actually.
But we aren't that far in the story yet, and every time she appreciates anything, it's like, oh, those beautiful colors. And I mean, like eggs, I can see how she sees these beautiful colors in the forest or even in a scar. But then the eggs, and I was like, maybe I haven't seen some great eggs in my life.
Yeah, they're like this whole like brown and white shapes. And I think one
Shapes?
Shades. And I think one is even bluish. Like, that's a special egg.
You're a special egg.
So Isaac is a good old special egg in her life.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was actually excited that we would finally get to meet Isaac. Because we've been talking about him on here so much, and I kind of had this picture about him in my mind. And then it just skips it. She's like, I'm going off with him now. And I was like, ooh, is this where the spice starts? No.
I was promised smut, and it was taken from me. Lea, how do you feel about this?
In the moment, I was so in the story that I was like, what happened? Why are we home now? I didn't even register it correctly, but now that we're talking about it, I was like, damn, they fucked, and I didn't read it. Why?
Well, Lea, have I got some good news for you, because we live in the great age of AI. And Meike and I have fed ChatGPT some prompts, and we can actually read that sex scene.
Oh no!
We told him
now.
about the book and about the characters, and we were like, okay, fill it out.
I am so mortified and so looking forward to this.
So, Lea, you will be Feyre, I will be Isaac.
And I will be the narrator.
Let's go! What do I read?
As Isaac and I slipped away into the moonlit shadows of the barn, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease gnawing at my insides. The air was thick with anticipation, or maybe just the smell of hay. Here we were, venturing into uncharted territory, our hearts pounding like the erratic strokes of a novice painter attempting a masterpiece.
Hey, nice night, huh?
Yeah, sure. So, wanna, do the thing?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Great. Let's get started then.
Isaac turned to me, his eyes reflecting the same mixture of apprehension and desire that danced within my own soul. His lips parted, but words seemed to elude him, leaving us stranded in a sea of awkward silence.
Oops, sorry. I'm not very good at this.
No worries, me neither. It's like trying to... It's like trying to paint with mittens on. Just a little to the left. No, your left.
Right, got it. So, what now?
Maybe we should just, dive in.
Right.
Summoning every ounce of courage I possessed, I reached out, my fingers trembling like delicate brushes poised to capture the essence of a fleeting moment. Our lips met tentatively, the sensation foreign yet oddly exhilarating, like a brush stroke.
Is this, working?
Sure, yeah.
As we fumbled through the motions, our bodies awkwardly entangled, like two novice painters struggling to find harmony in a chaotic symphony of colors. I couldn't suppress the urge to burst into laughter. Here we were, two inexperienced souls stumbling through the murky waters of passion, our attempts at lovemaking resembling a comical sketch rather than the masterpiece we had envisioned.
Perhaps we should explore other techniques.
Yeah, good idea.
It's like trying to capture light with a dull brush.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could, I don't know, paint a masterpiece for you.
But as our kiss deepened, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, like a canvas marred by an errant stroke that refused to blend seamlessly with the rest of the painting. Isaac's lips moved clumsily against mine, his touch lacking the finesse of a seasoned artist.
Maybe we should just stop.
Yeah, probably for the best.
So, same time next week?
Yeah, sure.
Great!
And scene.
What the fuck? So, let me guess. You told ChatGPT that she was a painter and writes in these metaphors?
How do you know?
But I feel like you didn't tell ChatGPT that they were doing this for 2 years.
The thing is, I think ChatGPT is not allowed to write sexual stuff.
Probably.
So we were write it in the way that you are allowed to write it. And it came up with that. And I think it's incredibly funny.
I love that it's not like she doesn't have feelings for him, but he just can't do it. And that's why she doesn't like it. And then she's like, yeah, but next week, woohoo, let's go.
I loved that sentence. When I first read it, I was like, what? But I think it's interesting that even though this is not the actual thing, you can kind of take away stuff from it.
Mm-hmm.
It fits my image of how Isaac just tries to please her. And I'm not sure if he's good at it or not, but the way he's just trying to make her happy, maybe. Maybe I'm just an Isaac fan. I don't know why. I just became an Isaac fan with this chapter. Mm-hmm. And I think he just kind of has a desire to make her happy.
Yeah, I see that too. And also with the thing that he's talking a lot and she's just maybe listening with half an ear.
Yeah.
And shows he wants maybe more out of this or maybe gets more out of this than she does.
Yeah, maybe he also wants her to be a friend. If not a lover.
Yeah.
I feel like the book is marketed, well, not marketed by her or her agency or whatnot, but maybe just the people online, that this book is so spicy and so sexy and everything is so, romantic and juicy that I was so taken aback when they did not have sex on page, I guess. Maybe it's just the wrong expectation.
Or maybe it's just too early in the book. Maybe it's just
I think so too.
Isaac, I know this is maybe hard for you to hear this prediction, but maybe he just does not matter in the grand scheme of things.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But
why she
wouldn't
didn't
it be
bother setting
a good
up
thing to
this romance.
paint the tone of the book a bit earlier?
Maybe.
I feel like if I went into a YA book and in the first, 100 pages or so, they would not have sex, and then in the last 30 pages there would be a steamy, explicit sex scene, I would be confused.
But I mean, we've only read the first 40 pages. We
Yeah,
don't know
you're
what
right.
happens in chapter 5.
Yeah, I also think it might be a little bit early. We're not over the first 50 pages of the first book. So I feel like when it's the right person, maybe then there's also the right content.
Whenever we get to raison.
Raison.
Yeah,
Brisant.
I don't want to complain. I'm actually not the biggest fan of extensive sex scenes in books because mostly they are just unnecessary. But I don't know. Maybe Sarah J. Maas is good at writing them. I feel like what I've read from her was okay. I don't know. Like, I didn't actually miss it. I just missed it for the podcast.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I liked at first that we didn't really get the confirmation what exactly will happen. And then later she was like, oh yeah, and I was at the barn with Isaac. And so we go like, so they did the thing.
In the next chapter, she says she's still exhausted from her afternoon with Isaac. And I thought, nice.
It kind of
Good
makes
for
it
her.
more innocent that we don't
yes.
like peek in on it.
Yeah.
It's like those two young people just stealing away because they can and maybe figuring things out.
For now, it's just innocent and cute. And we ruined it.
Yes.
You're
You did.
welcome. Yeah.
Same time next week.
After that little interaction, they head back home. They're home and Nesta, my girl, goes to chop wood. Again.
Wow.
Yes.
Second
Queen.
time this day. She was not asked to do that by Feyre. She just did it.
Wow.
Because she got a
Wow.
great allowance. They got like 2 copper pieces or whatever to go buy some stuff. And she was like, I will chop the wood now. I want to marry the woodcutter son. I have to do it.
I was like, go off, Nesta. Now I
can do
actually
it.
kind of like you. Woo!
Really driving home the Nesta redemption arc. And just as Feyre wants to approach Nesta about this marriage of Thomas, an enormous growling shape appears in the doorway.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's the first cliffhanger.
I wrote down the wolf attacks because I was so convinced it is actually the wolf.
The one she killed?
Yes.
The skinned wolf corpse?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, what did it do to Mahogany?
Maybe. I don't know.
Or did you maybe hope the enormous growling shape was actually mahogany?
Wow. I didn't even think about that, but now that you mention it, damn.
Yeah, but luckily we agreed to read chapters 3 and 4, so we didn't have to wait another week to record this. So let's get into it. A fairy enters. Or at least at this point we think it's a fairy. So we find out the ward markings on the threshold of the cabin do not work.
Surprise.
Wrong prediction. Yeah, and we found out it's not the wolf that attacks, but a different creature.
It's a different creature. It's described as large as a horse, golden fur, feline, so cat-like features, a cat-like body, and a distinctively wolfish head.
It
with
also has-
elk horns.
Yeah. And dagger-like claws and yellow fangs.
Sounds interesting. The horns kind of threw me off. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next step, wolf.
I also think the combination of wolf and feline is very surprising.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if that's just Sarah J. Maas trying to write fun and weird creatures that couldn't
Maybe.
exist in our world, or if they actually kind of have a backstory that makes sense, that they have different features from different creatures.
Nah.
Yeah, as Feyre notes, it's not a Martex or not the meanest kind of fairy. I like that Feyre's like, yeah, it could be worse, at least.
Oh no, our life is threatened. But it could be worse.
It could be the tortured goose from the cover.
Just imagine a third beast stands at the door and then it's a goose. It's a goose.
We should have ChatGPT write that story.
Yes, please.
No more ChatGPT.
So the fairy bellows, murderers.
Wow.
I thought maybe it's like the wolf's brother or a partner, because the dead wolf is silver and now the new one is golden. And I wondered, oh, maybe they're like related or together in some kind of way. But no, we find out they're friends.
Yeah. I also immediately assumed they were partners or lovers. And I also immediately assumed that the fairy was female coded. I think because of the feline body, I always associated with femininity somewhat. And then Feyre uses the his pronoun and him pronouns, and I was like, oh, this is a male fairy.
At least Feyre thinks so.
Yeah, you're right. And we learn that they're friends and not partners or anything. But I mean, they could still be partners technically.
Yeah, and as I read that, again, Lea, I was very proud of you, because that was your prediction as well. In the last episode, you said maybe like another fairy will come and say, you've killed one of us and you have to pay. And that's spot on what happens here.
Yep, I know how stories work. Again.
Yeah, but you can still be proud of yourself.
I am.
Feyre does not allow terror to take over, so she has good stress management, good composure. But she says if she were alone in the forest, she probably would have allowed it to take over and just accepted death. So the only reason for her to not do that is her family and that promise, which is not the healthiest reason to fight for your life. I feel like you should do that for your own sake. Sure, she can protect her family, but it would be nice if she would also do that if her family weren't there.
Yeah, Feyre seems like a very proud and strong and self-confident person, and then she's like, if I had my family, I would just die, probably, and that surprised me.
Yeah, but I felt like it was a strategy of Sarah J. Maas to point out how powerful and dangerous this being is that is threatening them, so that Feyre would never even think about being able to protect herself if it wasn't for her family. But I also agree with you guys.
And also, Sarah J. Maas says that her family is like her sole motivation, and then as we find out at the end of the chapter, she takes that motivation away from her character, and now she has to find a new drive in the story. And that's what kind of makes it interesting as well.
Yeah, you're right.
She also has to be strong in this situation, because first her sisters are covering behind her, and then her father joins in, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
she describes
I think
him as...
her father meant to protect the sisters, but since Feyre knew he wouldn't be able to protect them against the wolf, she also had to protect the father.
Yeah, she describes it as another body for me to defend.
Yeah.
She is so done with her father, and after this chapter, I was too.
Oh, I think in chapter 3, I have to look back at my notes, but she describes her sisters as so delicate and shreddable. And I just love that expression. It's so nice. My sisters are so delicate and shreddable. So she has to protect them.
Yeah. But we also see that Nesta protects Elaine. And I was like, oh, my girl, I love you now. Her redemption is already complete for me.
She chopped wood twice.
Now she's strong.
Yeah.
She protected her sister.
Yeah, I'm like, go off, Nesta. You are my queen now.
Maybe this is just foreshadowing that Nesta now, at the end of this chapter, has to take care of Elaine. Maybe she understood in that moment that if Feyre was gone, it would be her to take over.
Yeah, maybe. But I guess we won't see that, since Feyre is the POV character. But maybe at the end of the book, Feyre will come back to her home, and then we see it.
And then they're rich, because Nesta is...
Because Feyre was the only thing holding them back.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think that. But yeah, so we learn that the treaty demands a life for a life.
Yeah.
So that means the murderer has to die, or someone has to die, or she could be living the rest of her life in Prythian. And I was thinking,
How convenient.
Wow, now the story begins. And I was like, yes, now let's go.
Oh, another little thing. First, when Nesta tries to protect Elaine, she holds up her little iron bracelet. And I just thought the image of that, her cowering on the ground in front of a big wolf, holding up a teeny tiny iron bracelet, just was so cute. I like Nesta.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so the fairy wants to know who killed his body, who killed the wolf.
His buddy.
And, I mean, at the very least, her stupid family does not, rat her out immediately.
I was actually surprised.
I was half expecting Nesta to be like, it was her, it was Feyre, she killed the wolf, now leave us alone.
Same.
But no, she had a redemption arc.
Woo.
She's cool now. Yeah, but they don't really have time to rat her out because Feyre pretty quickly steps up and says, "It was me. I killed the wolf." Not in that voice, maybe.
She's pretty metal. Maybe she did it in that voice.
And then we learn of the treaty.
And then we learn of the forgotten part of the treaty.
Do you think it really was forgotten? Or does Feyre just not know?
I don't know, maybe the fairy just made it up. The forgotten part is that life for a life thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that it's even in the treaty because it feels like human killing a fairy is a common occurrence. If they have to put it in.
Yeah, or maybe a life for a life just also means the other way around. But I feel like that cannot really be pursued because if a fairy kills a human, I don't think that like the human's boyfriend will go to Prythian and say, you killed them.
Well,
I will kill you now.
It says, alive for alive, any unprovoked attack on fairy kind by humans are to be paid only by human life in exchange.
Okay.
I mean, it could still work the other way around, but
Yeah, but we don't know that.
we don't know.
It's
unlikely.
It makes one think what might be the reason for this clause in the treaty.
Maybe something happened in the past.
Maybe.
So what do we think of this fairy? Or is it even a fairy?
Why wouldn't it be?
I have a theory. We kind of established that fairies are kind of on the bottom of the hierarchy, but this dude says he owns land in
you're
Prythian
right.
that Feyre can live on.
So you think it's like a high fae?
A high Feyre or high lord, because
Yeah.
like owning land makes me think of having a lordship. So that makes
I
me
thought so,
also think that maybe high lords, because I don't think high lords just look like monsters, but maybe they can like transform into monsters. Because I feel like this dude has to be a hot dude at some point, so Feyre can have a steamy, sizzling romance with him going on.
So you think he is the main fae love interest?
I think, this is my prediction, I think this is Rysand.
You think so? Because
Rysand.
I was really
Rysand.
conflicted about this. I was like, okay, this
I don't
seems
know
like...
anything about Rysand, that's just a name I know, but I think that's him. That's my prediction.
Yeah, because I felt like, okay, what's interesting, she didn't really, or I feel like she didn't really use these words of admiration she has used before. And I feel like if this Rysand character might show up, or I thought he would be, or will be described in that way. Yeah, so I was thinking maybe he's just like some sort of middleman, but he's owning
Yeah.
land,
Could
so...
be, yeah.
He's kind of too nice too soon, isn't he? I kind of felt like we've been told fairies are so unkind the whole time, and now someone shows up, and I mean, he's taking her, but he's being like, I could kill you, but I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna take you with me. Maybe he then turns out to be an actual huge dick, and like I don't know, he enslaves her or tortures her or whatever, makes her a servant and treats her unkindly,
yeah.
and then maybe Rysand comes in and maybe he's another fairy and or, like, high fae,
but
and
maybe
he treats her nicely.
Maybe Rysand is the middleman. Like, this could still be Rysand.
Yeah,
Why
that's
do we
true.
assume that Rysand is the love interest?
Yeah, good question. I don't know.
I mean, I think it is possible that it's Rysand, whatever.
Rysand.
Yeah, but I mean, that also might be a strategy why she isn't that admiring of him yet, because that has to grow, you know?
I mean, Lea, you said it's gonna be enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
And they have to be enemies before they can
It's
be lovers.
also very Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, you're right.
Like I said in the beginning, I think I don't have the whole story in my head anymore, but I feel like Belle saves her father from like prison of the beast,
I've
and then
never seen that.
and then she has to stay in the castle of the beast
I think so too.
for her father. It's kind of like a life for a life situation, even
Yeah.
though Belle didn't kill anyone. And her father didn't either. I don't remember why he's imprisoned by the beast. Maybe just for trespassing.
I think so, maybe.
But yeah, it's a life for a life situation. Like I set your father free, and you live with me forever, and
Yeah.
we become friends, and then in the end, lovers.
Yeah, but I also was questioning his motives. Why is he offering this possibility of you could live with me?
Because he
person
thinks
that-
she's hot.
Do you really think so? I mean, this person has
Maybe.
just killed his wolf friend, and he tells them reluctantly about this possibility, but also quite fast.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe he went there with the intention to just like slay that asshole who killed his friend, and then he like opens the door and it's like in his head it's like a slow-mo scene in a movie with like romantic music and like Feyre sees him and her hair blows in the wind and he's like
snowflakes everywhere.
Yeah, and he's like,
Wow.
oh damn, she's coming with me.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels shady.
Yeah,
That he
I feel
came
like-
up with that so quick, and then he was like, "Oh, it's a forgotten part in the treaty. I'm 100% positive it's forgotten, but it's there." Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is in a position to make shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
what are they gonna say? But then again, Feyre says that fairies cannot lie.
Yeah.
Like that's something everyone knows, everyone learns as a child. But then again, as we said, not everything they learned as children is true.
Yeah. I think he has some hidden motive that is more than just, ooh, you hot.
Maybe he's in the need for a human. And
Maybe
it's-
he needs that seventh queen.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Maybe it's convenient that the wolf died. And he's like, okay, now that gives me a reason to take away a human.
Maybe
without...
he didn't even like the wolf.
Maybe he sent the wolf to die.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe he is a conniving little shit.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he needs her, or not like specifically her, but he needs a human, and she was there.
Or she's like, coming back to your theory, maybe she's like some, not antichrist, but, you know, this being born of both bloodlines.
Maybe there's a prophecy. This book is missing a
Maybe.
prophecy.
Maybe she's his lost sister.
Or his daughter. But that would be... Well, she doesn't describe him as sexy, so maybe
that
he's
could
her
be
father.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so a lot of theories.
But speaking of fathers, her father.
Oh, God. Oh. I hate him so much.
So the fairy suggests this living with me for the rest of your life, and her father goes like, "Do it, Feyre." And I was like, "Okay, Dad,
I mean,
what the fuck?"
he stood up and I was like, okay, he's doing something.
I thought maybe he'd die. He'd be like,
Yeah.
no, this would be his final stand against this wolf. And he'd be like, no, she suffered so much. I'm going to stand up for her now. And then the wolf kills him. I don't know. But no, he
Yeah,
just...
I thought that maybe he would like stand up and say, "You said it's a life for a life, then take mine and let my
Yeah.
daughter live." But he
That would be
doesn't.
Good. No, do it, Feyre.
Go with it.
What the fuck?
And then he's like, if you ever escape, don't return.
I wrote down, "Okay, Dad," again.
I wrote down, fuck you, Dad.
I mean, obviously he wants. Or I read it as obviously he wants a better life for
Yeah,
her.
sure.
She should not come back to this. But I mean, come on, you can say that in a different way. Not, "Don't ever come back here, you little shit."
He's not telling her that he loves her. He's not
No.
telling her that, like, thank you for everything you've done. He's just like, go and never come back.
It's not. It doesn't even seem mean in a way like he says it is mean, and that's not why it's bad. It's just like, do it.
doesn't care.
And it's like, go with him. Okay, do it. It's not even like, oh, I'm finding a different solution. Maybe we can barter. Okay, I mean, he tries to barter before, but it's just like, okay, I take the solution. I'm out. Bye-bye. Go off. I'm never seeing you again. I don't care. You're my daughter, but I still have two others. I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a very parental goodbye.
No.
But the way Feyre says goodbye to the family feels very parental. Like, she's leaving behind kids and she's telling them to, like, not leave the stove on and close all the windows at night. Whatnot. Like, she's
And she's leaving all the money, isn't she?
yeah, she's
Yeah.
leaving all the money and she's leaving all the meat. And she tells them how to cook it and how to eat it and how to make jerky.
And why not to marry this Thomas person
Yeah.
as a little nice sprinkle in the end?
I don't know how I feel about that. It kind of felt
Yeah.
unnecessary to drop that. So, as like a last warning, Feyre tells Nesta to not marry Thomas because Thomas' father hits his wife. And she's scared that Thomas, who doesn't say anything, might be as bad or just like he's from a family that abuses women.
Yeah.
So Feyre really doesn't want Nesta to marry into that.
So, but that kind of makes me think that we bring up Thomas again. I kind of feel like he might make an appearance in chapter 5. because
In the forest?
In the forest, yeah. Because the fairy takes her through the woods to the wall that might be there or not, or might be invisible or just an electric fence. And I think we have heard mention of Thomas so much over these past 4 chapters that maybe he will be there, maybe he will come with them or try to stop them, or
Maybe they'll kill
whatever.
him.
So I think that's why Sarah J. Maas is trying to remind us that Thomas exists, like at the end of this chapter.
Yeah, I felt so too. I just hope it's not a reminder so that when we come back to the village, maybe in, I don't know, a book or 2, Nesta is married to this very abusive guy.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
would
want
be-
that for her.
No. But I also think, like in the chapter before, she's like, you shouldn't marry this man. And Nesta is like, why? No, I love him. And she's like, because we're not rich. She could have said that these are violent people then and there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bit weird.
What's up with her?
That's strange.
Do you think she made that up? Well,
No,
I don't think so.
I just think she's bad at arguing her point.
Yeah. Feyre is something.
She's a bit of an overthinker. She, like when she thinks about her promise that she made to her mom and then the payment she could do for the fairy and go with him, she's like, whatever I do, I'm an oath breaker.
Yeah, that's her internal conflict.
Yeah.
But very quickly she finds for herself which promise is more important to her and which promise she's willing to break. So
Yeah.
I read it as she's going with this fairy, but she still has the plan to ambush him when he doesn't expect it and to
Yes.
return immediately.
Yeah. She plans on doing that.
Yeah, because if she doesn't cooperate, if she dies, she still kind of breaks the promise she made to her mom to protect the family.
Yeah, she leaves the family behind.
Yeah.
She can't
Yeah.
hunt for them anymore.
And I mean, that's a promise she actually made. The treaty, she never saw it, she never signed anything.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it affects her, but it's not a promise she explicitly
Yeah.
made.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be a cursed oathbreaker, as I think she says it in the book. Which, we learned about this kind of religion standing in this world that the mortals have, that oaths and promises are sacred. And I kind of see a connection to the fairies there, because if it's true that fairies cannot lie,
Yeah, you're
That-
right.
kind of connects them to this whole promises are sacred thing. So maybe, I don't know, there's a connection. I don't know what it means or why
I
it is
mean-
there.
I think the connection is the treaty, because they made the treaty and they promised not to attack them. And it's a promise, if the fairies can't lie, they can't break it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they probably wanted humans to have the same kind of binding thing by saying, oh, a promise is your law now. Humans can lie, but if they make a promise, they are bound to it by law.
Maybe,
yeah,
yeah.
and this promise is the only thing that keeps them safe in their mind. So the promise becomes this elevated thing, this religion.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on these 2 chapters that we read?
I'm afraid I might know why I stopped reading the book now. I don't know how far I've read, but I'm just so scared that this will turn into some kind of enemies to lovers, Stockholm syndrome love story, because I really don't want her to go there, be enslaved, and I don't know, just be forced to be with this guy, and then over time just feel happy with him. Like she feels happy with Isaac now just because he's there. You know, I really don't want this to be like an, oh, she's falling in love with her captor now thing.
I think that might be the case, though.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, me too.
And I think I stopped before it happened. So I'm not saying I read that it happened and I stopped because of that. But I feel like I was at a point where it's like, no, I don't want that kind of story.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not happening and I hope it's not happening.
I've always imagined her partner quite human-like. And this fairy is still quite animalistic and has a wolf face and something.
And horns.
Yeah, that doesn't seem practical.
I hope he's not there for the smut.
Yeah,
In this
that's what
form,
I
at least.
mean. That's what I mean. I feel
I don't
like
think so.
her lover has to be someone that can be conventionally described as attractive and beautiful. Because I can't really see it with this creature right now, but we
Yeah.
will see.
Maybe it's her dad. We don't know. But what do you think Brithian will be like? Because she mentions it being lethal to humans.
Oh, yeah, you're
and I
right.
wondered if that is like literal. If it maybe the air is like not meant for humans, or if it's just very dangerous because of all the fairies and such.
That was a thought I had too, if there's poison in the air or the ground is, I don't know, alive and eats you. But he then describes that he has land where he can protect her, so it can't really be in the air.
If the air was poisonous, this would be a very short book.
Maybe she's gonna wear a helmet.
She's just out there in like a
Like an
space
astronaut.
suit. Yeah. Oh, my lover, come here and stroke my little glass bubble on my head.
But you think Brithian will be any different to like human nature, like mortal land's nature? Will they have different animals, like
Maybe
winged
like
cats and
hybrid beings, because the fairies are kind of hybrid
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
would
too.
it's
so
like an Avatar: The Last Airbender world building situation going on,
Yeah, I think so
where all the
too.
fantasy creatures are just like two animals combined.
I also think they might be a little bit more advanced technologically than the humans because they have magic and I assume they're rich. So probably maybe cleaner. I hope so.
So we all don't expect Feyre to escape.
Not before the
No.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe-
she will
maybe
go
after the
beyond
wall.
Maybe she will escape when she's in Prithian and then be taken prisoner by someone else who is higher up.
Or maybe.
Or just like escapes and can't get back over the wall by herself.
And then Mahogany comes and saves her and they ride off together into the sunset and have a better life as mercenaries, hunters.
Nice.
The end.
Love.
Yeah.
Pulitzer Prize.
Sounds awesome.
So yeah, but overall I like these chapters. I like that she wastes no time.
Yes.
We have like 3 fairly enjoyable chapters that teach us everything we need to know in like a not forced way.
In an
And
enjoyable
then,
way. Yeah.
Yes.
And then chapter 4, it's action.
Yeah.
It's consequences. It's stuff happening. The plot moving forward.
Yeah. I'm hooked now too. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, same. I really want to meet fairies and fae and find out who they are, what they do, and
I
all that
want to
kind
know.
of stuff.
I want to know what's the deal with our horned guy.
Yeah. I want to know his name. I feel like a lot of people we meet in this chapter don't have a name.
Yeah,
Or, well,
you're
just
right.
the mercenary, but when you know someone's name, they either become less scary or even more scary if it's like a well-known name, like a legend or something. But I feel like if we knew, like he came in and he was like, murderers, I'm Gustav and you ate my bro, he'd be less scary.
Yeah,
You know,
you're
he's
right.
just this creature and we don't even know what his deal is.
Yeah, why would he introduce himself in this moment?
Yeah.
Hello.
I kind of still want the other wolf to be his lover.
Yes.
I kind of want like a wholesome story where she goes with this wolf and he turns into a somewhat like older man and he's like, oh, we've been together for so long and we've had this such happy memories, and then he shows her pictures of what they did and he tells her stories, and
But-
I'm just like, oh,
That would mean she killed this cute little grandpa's husband. That would be so sad. I have this land. You can live with me. You will be my slave now. Let's go. That's how Rysand talks.
Maybe Rysand is a grandpa.
I know that someone made a playlist where there's something about sitting on his lap, but
People have types, Lea.
and also grandchildren sit on their grandpa's laps sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Maybe this fairy is Santa Claus. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was fun.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, you might want to leave us a 5-star review. And you can follow us on Instagram at GettingFadePod. And if you want to have a little chat, you could DM us. But please don't send any spoilers because we don't know anything. Yeah. Thanks.
Also, maybe you have a friend who likes to read these books and you can tell them about us. That helps.
Thanks.
Tell your mom. Tell your
Grandpa.
classmates.
Your teachers.
Tell your hairstylist.
and your librarian.
Tell Sarah J. Maas if you know her. Maybe we can get her on the pod.
5th episode, Sarah J. Maas is on the pod.
So yeah, I guess we will see you next time when we are
Getting Fae'd!